After a long hiatus, we are back. Welcome, everybody, to episode 18 now of the 3 and Out podcast. I'm officially back to hosting. Thank you, Benny, for leaving the temporary duties. Brett Schaub's always alongside Benny Pope and Mike MC Mies Piece Cicchetti.
I think I know why I took over. My goodness.
All right. Anyways, week 18 is officially over, meaning the NFL regular season is officially concluded. The NFL playoff picture is officially set. We're going to get into that in just a moment, but my goodness, what a crazy week 18. There were a lot of weird scenarios that could have happened in the last week where we could have seen some interesting teams make the playoffs, but we see the picture now as it is. It seemed like it was pretty predictable up to that point in time, but just want to gauge you guys' overall thoughts. After week 18, did we see the playoff picture now being what it was? Meaning, did you think what we have now was going to be the playoff picture to begin with?
I feel like the answer is yes, because the teams that made it in, like we had the Patriots who could have snuck in, the Steelers could have. Miami ended up getting it, which I feel like is deserving, even though they lost 6 in a row. But they are clearly the better team over those two, being New England and
Those
Pittsburgh.
two garbage franchises.
When Tua's out there, we're still waiting on word for him.
We have
So
no idea.
we don't. As of right now, we don't. McDaniel said Wednesday we'll get some more clarity. And by the time this episode comes out, we might know what's going on, kind of, or what the future of the week holds, or the first playoff game. But as of right now, we have zero clue. And the NFC side, I feel same thing. Detroit could have snuck in, Green Bay, but Seattle's been kind of, you know, uh, better than them throughout the whole season. So they make it in. Very deserving, very, very impressive season by the Seahawks. So, yeah.
Benny, your thoughts?
Yeah, we saw just a blessing of God that the Pittsburgh Steelers did not get into the playoffs. That would have been atrocious for the second year in a row.
But to contrary belief, Mike Tomlin continues his streak of finishing every single season in his NFL head coaching career over 500.
Yeah,
He's a
and
goat.
he's got garbage around him. So, okay. Absolute choke jobs done by the Commanders and the Packers a couple last weeks. The Commanders starting Carson Wentz over Taylor Heineke because Ron Rivera just does not want to coach the Commanders anymore. And Aaron Rodgers cannot close out a game at Lambeau Field with a lead. Third straight year. Once against Tom Brady, once against, well, this year Jared Goff, and then the previous year against Jimmy Garoppolo and the Niners. So looking really bad for him. He's entertaining retirement rumors for the second straight year, even though he just got a contract extension. So that's an entirely different situation. But yeah, we had some surprises. Seattle's able to sneak into the 7th seed. Detroit was not able to make it in, even though they finish off the year super strong. Shout out to Jared Goff and that entire team. They finished really good. And then Miami's able to sneak in, like you mentioned, Mike. Skylar Thompson beats the Jets 9-6. My God, that was garbage. And yeah, and talk about the Patriots Bills just quickly. Nyheim Hines with just a really cool moment at the beginning of the game. A lot of people talking about this. One of the cooler moments that we've seen in sports as of recently. Don't really need to cover too much about the Damar Hamlin situation, but Nyheim Hines coming out the first snap that the Bills have since that incident a couple weeks back. Really cool to see, and really cool to see how much support the Bills have gotten over the past couple weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just to clarify, if you didn't see that game, Nyheim Hines, over 100-yard kickoff return to begin the game against the Patriots. The first play of the game, and that was pretty remarkable. You can't really write a better script than that. He had 2 kickoff returns in that game. 2, the Bills had not had a kickoff return for over 3 years prior to that moment. So came really fitting that it happened at that moment. So pretty remarkable to say the least. But yeah,
And the Broncos won a game. I'll say it ain't so.
I'll say my 2 cents now because they do not deserve to be in this spotlight. But Russ
Oh,
looks
boy.
like Russ. Hackett's the problem. We move on.
Okay. It's not because Brandon Staley's begging to get fired. That's not the reason.
Oh, you're not wrong there. But we're going to get into that. The NFL Wildcard Weekend is officially on us. Super Wildcard Weekend, 2 days full of NFL playoff games.
3
For
days.
those of you who don't know what?
3 days.
That is true. 3 days. I'm sorry. For those of you who don't know, basically every single team in both conferences, except for the number 1 seeds, so in this case, the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles, will not be playing on Super Wildcard Weekend. It's the 2 seed versus the 7 seed, 3 seed versus the 6 seed, and then the 4 versus the 5 seeds. So crazy schedule coming up. It begins at 4:30 on Saturday with the Seahawks and the 49ers in Levi Stadium. It's going to be, honestly, considering the way both of these teams have been playing, it should be a strong contest, pretty evenly matched up in terms of how the offenses have been playing all year. The 49ers have been phenomenal, though, the last couple of weeks, so it's gotten a little bit more
Last couple of
lopsided.
weeks.
Defense is a completely different story. 49ers have been one of, if not the best defense in all of football. They are coming into this game pretty confident with a victory. What do we think will happen with this opening game to start Wildcard Weekend?
Brett is opening up being quite polite because this is one of the more heavily favored games of Wild Card Weekend that the Niners are going to win this. It was like over 70% that they're already giving it. The Niners have whooped the Seahawks both times that they played this season. The last time with Brock Purdy, it was only a 1-score game, but it was pretty much because the Niners had it unlocked the entire game. With Brock Purdy under center, I believe it's over their last 7 games. They have 1 game that they haven't scored at least 30 points. They've scored at least 37 in each of the last 3 games. So they've looked unbelievable. They've been pretty much unstoppable since Brock Purdy came under center. Even when Jimmy Garoppolo was under center, they had won like 4 of their 10-game winning streak with Jimmy Garoppolo under center. So it's not even just them. They are red hot. They are probably the co-favorites, if not the favorites in the NFC alongside the Eagles. I think this is an easy matchup for them. They've shown it to be an easy matchup for them. Just to give Geno Smith and the Seahawks credit, they fought very hard to get into the 7th seed, but they've played teams like Kansas City and San Francisco in recent weeks, haven't made it competitive. I think it's going to be the same sentence here, especially because it is going to be in San Francisco. So I think it's an easy wash for the Niners in this one.
Yeah, I agree. San Francisco, I think we'll take it. Brock Purdy was interviewed, I want to say post-game on Sunday, and they asked how different the NFL is from college. He said it is, or how much harder it is. He said it's different, but when you have guys around you that can, make plays any given play, it helps. And the 49ers have that. And Purdy, in that way, is lucky because he's working with one of the best offensive minds, has endless weapons on the offense, it seems. And that defense, D'Amico Ryan's got those boys playing crazy. They play super, super smart, ranked first defensively. And I don't really think Seattle will be a match. Seattle is close to bottom 5 in defense. And I just think the Niners defense will be able to apply pressure to the Seahawks, especially up front with their shaky guard play recently. So shout out to Seahawks, though. We thought they would have had like a top 5 pick. And they still do. Thank you, Denver.
Thank you, Denver. Thank you, Russ. Oh,
yeah, thank you, Denver, for that. But they're gonna figure something out. And Geno Smith, they're gonna figure out something with him, because I was reading an article. You have to assume they pay him, right? What would you guys just baseline? What would you guys pay Gino per year?
2 years.
No, I mean money.
2 years, 45 million.
So the tough thing with this is the franchise tag is set at, is predicted to be set at 31.5 mil. So he's going to use that as leverage going in. And I was reading an article from an anonymous exec, I believe, and he said that Gino he thinks will command 30 to 35 million annually.
That's ridiculous. I'm
So
sorry, but that's
Seattle
ridiculous.
is going to have they're going to have a big decision because he was top 10 in just about every stat quarterback wise. He played great, but it's one season. So Seattle is definitely going to have a tough decision to make this
Yeah,
offseason.
he still led the league in completion percentage.
Yep.
Honestly, think with the franchise tag, that's honestly kind of a good move if the Seahawks did that, because it is just another 1-year commitment, and they would
Right.
still be able to. They have a top draft pick in this year's draft. You never know what happens next year, but maybe Denver doesn't improve, maybe they don't improve, so they'll maybe have a top draft pick next year. But you never know with the draft and everything. I would say if they're willing to draft a quarterback this year and they want to go in that direction, the franchise tag is probably the easiest way to go. Because
Yeah.
I think going like a 3, 4, 5 year deal with Gino, that's just a little too risky at this point, especially with a young nucleus of players like Seattle is trying to develop.
You got to remember, Geno Smith's also 32. If you were to lock him up to a 4 or 5 year deal, you're pushing him at 37, maybe even 38 years old, tops, if you sign him. And the way Geno's played throughout his entire career, he's been pretty inconsistent. This is really only the first time where we've seen him be an exceptional football player. So I'm honestly with Ben. I think the franchise tag's honestly a really good move at this point to kind of set yourself up just to see how long you can take with Geno Smith. But I don't expect anything big Seattle to commit themselves to.
Yeah, I just wanted to get you guys get your opinion on that because I was thinking about it, just curious.
Yeah. Anyways, we move on. Our final
What's your pick,
prediction.
Brett?
I was just about to say Seattle is not my pick whatsoever. San
You're
Francisco.
talking them up so much, though.
You gotta give them a little bit of love. They, as Mike said, they worked their butts off to get here. They climbed the totem pole. So it's a clean
They did.
sweep. San Francisco is our favorite to win this game in San Francisco, or Santa Clara to be politically correct. But
Okay. Well,
now we move on to one of, if not the most exciting game of Wildcard Weekend. Chargers and Jaguars in Jacksonville. This is the first time Jacksonville has made the playoffs since their AFC Championship run a few years ago with Blake Bortles and Leonard Fournette. They have a completely different franchise and roster than they did before. This is Doug Peterson's first trip to the playoffs with the Jaguars, Trevor Lawrence's first trip to the playoffs with the Jaguars. And honestly, I don't think a lot of people expected Jacksonville to put up a fight for the division, let alone the playoffs, considering they were 4-8 just 5 weeks ago, and they were a bottom 5 team in the NFL. They are now 9-8. They won the final game of the season. They beat the Titans. They are now clinched in as the 4 seed, and they will be playing the Chargers on Saturday night. I'm going to start with Ben on this one. Where do we sort of see this Chargers-Jags game going?
So, like you mentioned, it's probably one of the closer games of Wild Card Weekend. I don't think there is a clear consensus favorite. I think a lot of people are actually leaning towards maybe the surprise pick, even though they do have home field advantage, and that would be the Jaguars. And that's actually where I'm leaning to. I think the Jaguars are going to win this one. I'm leaning this way just because we did see on Sunday a couple injuries pop up for the Chargers. Mike Williams and Joey Bosa both had to leave the contest with injuries. Joey Bosa logged a full practice on Tuesday. Mike Williams did not play. So those are just some lingering things to keep in mind. But just the way that the teams are playing right now, I think the Chargers are at a very good point in which, like, aside from Mike Williams and maybe with Joey Bosa, they've got most of their guys back healthy. It's not a perfect slate because obviously you have some of the guys from earlier in the season, Rashawn Slater, examples like that are still out. But it's still a very talented roster, and you've got Justin Herbert at the helm. But I think the momentum that Jacksonville is presenting right now, they've looked really strong on defense as of late, even though that Trevor Lawrence has kind of cooled off from that peak from like week 9 to week 15, where he was like 15 to 1 touchdown to interception ratio, killing it. He's cooled down a little bit in the last 3 games, but the defense has also picked it up a little bit. They've had a couple of touchdowns in their last few games. They had the touchdown from Josh Allen that clinched their game against Tennessee to win the division. So the defense has been playing really well. The D line has been solid as well. So I just like the momentum that Jacksonville presents. I also think that they do have a coaching advantage with Doug Peterson against Brandon Staley, which might come into play, especially with Doug Peterson's experience in the playoffs and Brandon Staley's lack of experience in the playoffs. Even though that they are dealing with 2 quarterbacks that are new to the playoffs, I think Trevor Lawrence got a little bit of the taste of it in that game against Tennessee, where he really struggled at the beginning because it's kind of a playoff atmosphere. They were playing for the division title pretty much. Struggled at the beginning part of the game, but in those last 2 quarters in the last half, he really kind of settled into his own. So I'm favoring Jacksonville here. I do think it's one of the closer matchups, but I think I'm going to lean towards the home team in this one.
Mike?
Yeah, this game is my game of the week because you can't really go wrong with either pick. I think this is the closest matchup. My my heart's obviously telling me the Chargers, but I gotta go with my head. And my gut is also leaning Jacksonville. For all the reasons Ben mentioned, the momentum they have going, the Jacksonville Jaguars just somehow seem to win games. Defensively, they play very sound. Offensively, safe. Where the Chargers are more of like risk takers, and I feel like that will be kind of dangerous in Jacksonville. Not to mention the Chargers also find ways to lose games, which is not great. So, um, I want the Chargers, but I gotta go. I gotta go with my gut, and that is saying the Jags taking this game.
I am with you all. Again, clean sweep for Jacksonville. I'm picking the Jags in this game. I can't even speak English tonight. When I look at this game, I just think of experience and coaching ability in the playoffs. And for me, it's an easy pick. It's just Doug Peterson over Brandon Staley. I was not a fan at all of Staley playing the starters in week 18 versus Denver. If he benches the starters, he probably still has Joey Bosa and Mike Williams 100% healthy. Now, both of their game time decisions on Saturday are in question, more so Mike Williams than Joey Bosa. But just to kind of put the cap on it, I just think Jacksonville's much more well managed, a little bit more experience on the coaching and staff side. And I do think Trevor Lawrence is a little bit more consistent and hot going into these playoffs than Herbert is, despite maybe the talent level that you see between the two. So I'm picking Jacksonville. We're 2 for 2 on clean sweeps, and that rounds out the Saturday portion of Wildcard Weekend.
But go
Meaning-
Bolts, though. Go Bolts.
So we know where Mike's heart is. We know where his heart is.
You all know that.
We all know. His other heart, the Saints. Well, that's a little touchy. Anyways,
It's very touchy. Shout out Andy Dalton, though.
shout out the Red Rocket. Sunday, first game, 1:00. Dolphins and Bills in Highmark
boy.
Stadium in Buffalo. This could very well be a manslaughter. However, the last time Miami went to Buffalo, they put up a pretty good fight against the Bills. Came down to a game-winning field goal by Tristan Bass to win the game. Miami also had Tua in that game. They may not have Tua in this game. Very big question mark on whether or not their starting quarterback is going to play that Sunday, especially with a loaded offense that needs a consistent passer to get the ball out. Bills defense has been rather hot, especially coming off a strong victory against the New England Patriots. And they're also playing with a little bit of house money here. We talked about the DeMar Hamlin situation just a little bit. I'm sure everybody's familiarized with it by now, but with the Bills having that on their shoulders, it is a very hot and risky hand to play with. They've got so much confidence going into this game. I guess I can kind of kick it off based on the way I'm kind of taking this, but I think Buffalo could very much win this game. I think they will. I think this is probably going to be a manslaughter if Tua doesn't play. But I am picking the Bills. I'll turn it over to Mike this time. Mike, what do we think?
I'll keep it short and sweet. I'm going Buffalo, and I think whichever quarterback Miami runs out there, it just depends on how close they can get it. Obviously, Tua impressed. He impressed me a lot, actually. Last time they played in Buffalo in the snow, I didn't think that Tua would really be able to do garbage, and he looked good. So you got to give him his credit. But even if he is out there, I'm still going Buffalo no matter what quarterback. I think it just depends on, like I said, how close Miami can make the game. Buffalo with the DeMar Hamlin situation, which I wouldn't want to play Buffalo in Buffalo. With that and just the strength of their team. Give me buff. Give me buff by a Bill.
Buff by a Bill. Can Ben top
gross.
that one?
That sounds a little gross. God. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Buffalo as well. This Tua situation is just really like weird.
It's very ominous.
I don't think there's any chance, to be honest with you, that he does play. And if he does play, I think that tells you a little bit more about what Miami's future situation looks like. If they're really valuing Tua's now availability over his long-term availability,
Right.
which would be a concern. I don't think the way that Mike McDaniel and the new regime coaching staff has worked, that they would risk Tua in this situation, but the front office may make the decision themselves if Tua is available, and also Tua is going to want to play if he's available to play and is capable of playing. Regardless, though, I think this is going to be really tough, even if Tua does play. Raheem Mostert just broke his thumb against the Jets, so they really won't have a true run game unless Jeff Wilson is able to muster what he did in those first couple weeks. He did when he first came to Miami. But Buffalo seems like the team of destiny right now. It's going to be really tough to stop them, especially at home. Looked really good last week against New England. A little bit of a rocky start, aside from the two return touchdowns from Hines. But Josh Allen had a really rock-solid second half, had two really beautiful touchdowns, one to John Brown, one to Stephon Diggs. He looked really locked in the second half. So hopefully he's able to carry that over to this game. He's had a really solid playoff track record so far, kind of minusing that game against Houston a few years ago. But he's looked really good. Passer rating of like 108 in the playoffs so far for Josh Allen, 14-1 touchdown to interception ratio. He's been lockdown dynamite, mostly from his two playoff games last year, but he's been really good. I'm going to take Buffalo in this game. I don't think it'll be close, even if Tua does play.
Buffalo
from the quote unquote Miami guy. So
this is the Miami guy. He's even got the bucket hat to match. He's
does.
doing his best Will Smith impression. Shout out Will Smith. Who's that?
Shout out
Rocco.
Never seen a Simpsons episode in my life.
Simpsons. Neither have I.
We got a little cheap and okay.
Cheap is.
Who that is?
It's like the principal and Harry Mike and we got like
that muscle man in the corner right there. Who's that?
That's Rye Rob. Hey, shout out Rye Rob.
Shout out Rye Rob for real. For real.
This episode is sponsored by Rye Rob. Like you really paid for a sponsor.
The 4:30 game on Sunday. This should be an interesting one as well. Giants and Vikings in Minnesota. It is inside domed conditions, so playing field, as far as weather goes, is neutral. However, Minnesota's fans have been very strong, especially in the last couple weeks. Vikings we've talked about this before, have just been one of those teams this year that have either been really strong or really fraudulent. They've had some really good games this year. They had the biggest comeback in NFL regular season history. They beat Buffalo at the beginning of the year. This is a Vikings team where, honestly, if they're hot, they're going to win games and they can make a deep playoff run. But there have also been
No
cases where
way.
they've put up complete goose eggs, absolutely horrible games. And I low key have a feeling that this could be a goose egg game for the Vikings. Like, low key. It can always happen. They've proved they can do it at any given moment and just be fraudulent. But I want to wage your guys' thoughts. I'll go to Mike again on this one. Who do we see winning this one? Dable and the Giants or O'Connell and the Vikes?
Okay, the funny thing is I was going to mention this before pod, but I wanted to save it for this moment. If I would take any team matched up with the Vikings over the Vikings in the first round, except for the Giants. And the reason being is I just look at the big glaring issue for Minnesota. Their offense is great. Front seven is solid. It's their passing. It's their passing defense. They are really, really bad. They are last in passing defense. And the reason why I still take them is because the Giants' passing offense is bottom 5. They are not good either. They don't have a guy in the offense. So, like in the scenario, if they were going up against Seattle, if Minnesota held on to that second seed, I would take Seattle in the upset over them just due to how explosive their offense can be. I know they have Saquon, but I think the Giants can make it close. I think the Vikings will just get by. But I really want to go an upset, but I can't. Giants. I can't go upset with the Giants, so I'm taking the Vikes in this one.
Ben?
How about you, Brett?
Part of me wants to take the Giants. Just part of me wants to take the Giants in this scenario. And I think I am. I'm going to take the Giants in this game at Minnesota. I just don't trust this Vikings defense to really keep it consistent. I can trust them to keep it close, but I can't trust them to keep it consistent, especially in big moments. We've seen how creative Brian Dable and his offensive coaching staff has been able to be, especially in big game scenarios. Absolutely mollywopped Indianapolis in the last week of the season. We've seen them beat teams like Baltimore, Washington. We've seen them keep it close with Dallas. I think this Giants team absolutely has a chance to beat the Vikings in the playoffs. I think they've got the talent on defense to do it. The question is, like Mike mentioned, can their pass game be efficient? They don't really have a one true guy to be, that consistent go and safety valve for Daniel Jones. It's pretty much Saquon, but you're at that point relying him to be a two-way threat, which is already risky in itself. So I'm going to take the Giants in this scenario and trust the fact that their defense is going to keep them close and hold Minnesota to not many points.
Well, I'm going to wrap it up with a rarity. I agree with Brett. I'm picking the Giants as well. So I wanted to look back at their regular season game. It was just a couple weeks ago, so recency bias might be in there a little bit. But when they played, Daniel Jones was okay, just from like an outside view. He also threw for 330 in that game, which was a complete shock to me when I went back to like just check over the stats on that. Also, Justin Jefferson and TJ Hawkinson went completely off in that game, like 3 touchdowns over like 23, 24 combined catches. And the Vikings were only able to win by a field goal. Now, looking back over it, absolutely got nothing out of the run game from Dalvin Cook. He just suffered like a relapse in his knee injury this past weekend. It says he's should be full to go, but also I just haven't seen the same explosiveness from Dalvin Cook that I've seen in like previous years from this year. Obviously, they've got Alexander Madison, and he's one of the best backups in the league, but I don't know if they're going to have that backup support to their offense. The Vikings will. Whereas Saquon, he really hasn't been that great in the second half of the season. Yet the Giants' offense has still been able to muster like some production, whether it's like Darius Slayton, Richie James, Isaiah Hodgins coming out of nowhere. Like they've actually been able to make those receivers work. And even though that they don't have like the passing weapons that maybe a Seattle or like a Green Bay or literally any other team in the league, to be honest with you, would have, I still think with the defense playing at a solid level, I think they found a little bit of something in that game against Minnesota where, same with you guys, I think a lot of people are having that gut reaction that the Giants have more than a legitimate shot to win this game. And it's going to be in Minnesota. That'll be tough. It'll be Daniel Jones and Brian Dable's playoff debuts, but also Kevin O'Connell's, and Kirk Cousins really isn't good at 4 p.m. So there's stuff on both sides. I just gonna kind of go with my intuition here, and I'm saying the Giants, and they seem like the biggest, like true underdog that has a legitimate shot of winning. I think out of all these wild card games.
Yeah.
So we now have 2 Giants and 1 Viking. Our first split of the evening.
That's our first
So
one.
tonight,
That's crazy.
what? Anyway, 2 Giants, 1 Viking. We move
I heard
on.
you, Mike.
Our 8:00 game on Sunday is also a very interesting one. It's a rematch in Week 18, back-to-back games. The Ravens and the Bengals have played each other. I don't think this is going to be close at all. They're saying Lamar Jackson has a chance to potentially play this game on Sunday night. The expectation is that he will not play. I don't know what the hell the Ravens are doing, especially in the last couple weeks of the season. Tyler Huntley's been serviceable, but like
I don't know.
I just
Like
I
last year,
I don't like
when
the
Tyler
roster.
Huntley played last year, he looked solid, but this year it's just like, oh god.
It's
Oh
meh.
Lord,
It's just meh.
they
Do
let
we
the
have to-
Steelers beat them. Oh,
The Steelers beat them. Absolutely.
it was
Do we have
only
to
by a
do we have,
last minute
do we have to
score.
spend
But
time on this? Can we just go Bengals and move on?
so
Just Bengals.
I have maybe like a side
Go
thing
ahead.
here. So
Go ahead.
if Lamar does play, and he will not be 100% if he plays. Do we all agree with that? That he
Yes.
won't be 100%. Like he would have practiced at least some point in the past month
Mhm.
if he was like feeling good to ramp up. He's saying himself that like, oh, I'm gonna be good to go. Yeah, prove it on the field. Let's see you practice. He hasn't practiced at all. I think if he loses this game, and even if maybe he wins this game, I don't know. I don't think so. The only reason I'd give the Ravens even a shot, just to add this 2 cents in, is because both Lyle Collins and Alex Kappa have gone down in the past few weeks for the Bengals. So I'm a little concerned about their offensive line. And that's a legitimate concern that I have
Yep.
for who was probably my Super Bowl favorite like a couple weeks ago. But with the Ravens, is there a chance that like this whole situation with Lamar, and we've seen 2 straight years now where it's right before the playoffs, Lamar suffers injury, the Ravens either don't make it to the playoffs or just go out with a whimper. Is that a significant thing enough where that might affect the Ravens re-signing Lamar to a big long-term deal, or just making some sort of situation with him where maybe they trade him?
I want to
Okay.
say, go for it, Mike.
I'm glad you mentioned this because I've been thinking about this for the past week or so. This year, he's missed the last quarter of the season. Last year, he's missed the last quarter of the season. They obviously don't look like the same competent team without him. But the thing is, he's going to command close to 50 mil. I don't know if I want to pay my quarterback that amount of money, and he's gone down with injury the past 2 years.
Yep.
And it's sad to say, but like, I feel like you have to field trade, which would be tough because they don't even have him locked up.
That was an interesting word that you just used because this goes into like a quick thing I'm going to throw out here. I'm stealing this from FS1, by the way, Fox Sports 1. Shout out to Nick Wright on this. Justin Fields for Lamar Jackson. Who says no?
Wow, that is a tough one.
I don't think either of them say no. Because the Bears have so much cap space. They're going to have the draft capital that they're willing to trade away for like set pieces if they're willing to like compete right now, or they could just further that into further draft picks. They've got probably the most cap space or close to the most cap space in the NFL right now.
Yep.
The Ravens would get a young, controllable quarterback that plays pretty much the exact way that Lamar does, but maybe with a stronger arm.
I mean, potential-wise, sure, but Lamar as a passer is just much, much better. So that's why I would lean. That's why I would think it's beneficial for Chicago, because if you get him weapons, Lamar has developed his arm, accuracy-wise, since he's been in the league. And I think that's kind of an underrated thing about Lamar. Everyone knows that he uses legs, he runs all the time, but he's definitely developed a lot and improved a lot as a passer as well.
And I think the thing with that is, like, the Ravens have never shown true interest in grabbing receivers.
A weapon for him.
Yep.
Right.
Like, they've never really put any investment into that.
Yep.
Whereas the Bears, at least they're trying. Like, they tried it with a few draft picks in the draft class, and then they went and grabbed Chase Claypool, probably for an overpay. The Steelers are going to get the 32nd pick now from it. So at least they did something well there, Brett. But like, I don't think they would hate doing that. The Ravens, I don't think they would hate doing that.
I don't think
Justin Fields. I don't know. They both play very similarly. They would get a better passer. The Bears would. The Ravens get pretty much supplement of what Lamar is, plus a couple more years to figure out if they want to still run the system that they're running with Harbaugh.
Yeah.
That's just such a that's tough.
Hey, this is tougher than the Geno situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, I look at Lamar in this instance as the same as I do with Kyler Murray. Big running quarterbacks, commanding massive money, and are already such a high-prone injury risk, not even halfway in their careers. Lamar's reaching that point now, but Kyler's not even there yet, and he just tore his ACL.
Yeah.
Not even a year into his new contract, over $200 million. So if I'm the Ravens, I'm not signing him. I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole. If I had the chance to go out and get Justin Fields, yeah, I would very much consider that. I think Miami's in the market for a new quarterback, potentially. I think the Jets might be in the running for Lamar Jackson. I think Robert Saleh would be interested in that.
You want my list of teams in
Just one thing to add to Lamar. I think the only difference I'd say between Lamar and Kyler, I think Lamar has proven to us that he can play in the big moment and that he's a proven leader for that Ravens team. Two things that Kyler has not done. So I want to give Lamar credit there, even though that he does have some flaws in his game. But go ahead, Mike.
I just made a list of teams 2 weeks ago, and I was actually talking to Ben about this about a week back, because there are just a lot of teams who will be in the quarterback market. Jets, Titans, Colts, Texans, Raiders, Commanders, and then all of the NFC South.
Yep, I agree.
There's a lot. There's a lot. And you have to assume that there are going to be some teams going heavy for Lamar too.
Yeah, I think that's going to be one of, if not the, it's probably one of, if not the biggest story this offseason is where Lamar Jackson ends up playing his next year in football. But anyways, to round out this nutshell of a story, we're all sweeping on the Bengals here.
Yeah, Bengals.
Yeah. We move on to Monday. Monday's game is Dallas and Tampa Bay.
Oh boy.
In Tampa Bay. This is a game. This is, if you take away the Jacksonville and Chargers game, this game is the money ball right here. I will start this conversation off. I'm taking Tampa Bay in this game.
Wow, Brett.
Wow.
Wow. You are so lucky we haven't had pod in 2 weeks because you were singing a whole different tune.
Oh, I know I was. I was
2-3
harping the
weeks ago,
Dallas
buddy.
train. I've been harping on Mike McCarthy in Dallas. I seriously thought Dallas.
Oh, hey, yo.
Mike McCarthy? How about Dak?
I have been
That-
hyping up Dallas
Yikes.
for a while now. I thought they were going to end up with the top 4
Yikes.
seed, especially considering the way the Eagles were kind of taking a spiral downhill in those last 2 or 3
Top
weeks.
4 seed. It was
I
only
thought
it was only 1 or 5.
there was a chance they could win the division if
Or 2.
Philadelphia continued to lose. But Philadelphia
knew
ended up
Philly was
clinching
gonna
it, so
lose.
it didn't even matter.
Yeah, no.
Anyways, now Tampa Bay is playing with house money. Everybody's healthy, for the exception of 2 or 3 people.
Are they?
Defense
There's
has
some
been
big
playing.
pieces out.
They've got Godwin. They've got Evans. They've got
Offensively,
Fournette.
sure, but Carlton Davis has been out the past 2 weeks. Vita
And they've
Vey
still
has
got
been
Sean
on the injury
Murphy-Bunting.
report. Okay, that's a slot corner. I'm talking about their
They've got Sean
That's a top
Murphy-Bunting.
safety in the league, according to
shout out J.
According to Jay Hill.
Shout out J. Hill.
But they've got their front seven healthy.
What a
They've
dumpster
got
fire that
Brady.
was.
They've got the majority of their line. They've got the offensive weapons there. I think as
Didn't
long
their
as
center
Tampa
just
Bay
go down
wins-
too? I think their
Who?
center went down with an injury.
yeah. I
Robert
don't know if he
Haley?
came back into the game, but he
I'm
did
not
leave.
sure. I haven't checked.
Wirfs is healthy though. Wirfs is available. So I think as long as you have your major weapons, I think Tom Brady is going to be okay. I don't see how Dallas wins this game in Tampa Bay, especially. We've seen
Really?
so many times Dallas fumble the bag against the Bucks. I'm taking Tampa. I don't think there's much of a discussion.
Really?
I don't.
You think Tampa clears?
I think Tampa clears Dallas. I don't
Mike,
think
do you
this
want it
game's
or-
going to be close.
Yeah, Ben.
You want me? Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So there's so much stuff leaning towards Tampa. I so desperately want to, and think I will, not, or I desperately want to choose Dallas. So here's a couple things going for Tampa right now. Obviously, Dallas looking really bad against Washington this past week. Dak has thrown a pick in 7 straight games. He threw the pick 6. Dallas's defense over the past 7 weeks, the only competent quarterback aside from, I guess, maybe Daniel Jones now, is Trevor Lawrence. Otherwise, they've been giving up like close to 30 points a game, and they played quarterbacks like Sam Howell and Matt Ryan and a bunch of other garbage guys that I can't think of right now, but it's been really bad.
Davis Mills.
But Davis Mills was one of them. But, and also Dallas's record, shout out to Sean Payton, who provided this on Sunday Night Football. The Cowboys, they're 11-1 when they play on turf this year. They are 1 and flip that 1-5. I think that's the math. 1-5 when they play on normal grass this year. Tampa plays with normal grass. Dallas in Jerry World, they have turf. So that's kind of an indication there. Also, their only loss on turf this year was against Tampa. So there's a lot of info really pushing towards Tampa winning this. Tom Brady's 7-0 against the Cowboys in his career. I'm going to pick the Bucks, but I don't feel as locked in on it as I was a couple weeks ago. I still think that just Dallas is on a downward spiral. Brady's kind of able to sneak in and just really handle his business. But you also have to keep in mind that when Dallas goes on one of these like downward spirals, usually comes back with like a really strong vengeance. And that's just that feeling that I have in the bottom of my gut. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I don't want to completely check out with Dallas just because we have seen such incredible highs out of them this year. I think that Dak has more in the tank that he's provided over the past couple weeks. I'd still take Brady over Dak in the 2-minute drill. Shout out to me from like 3 weeks ago saying that. Yeah, I'm going to take the Bucks. I don't feel as confident as I was a few weeks ago when this was kind of the same situation. So I'm curious to see where Mike goes here.
I so badly want to pick the Dallas Cowboys to get this
I-
garbage Bucks team just out.
Yeah.
I think everybody's rooting for Dallas in this game, especially considering how strong they've been all year.
I'm still not rooting for the Cowboys. Count me
So,
out of there.
Here's
But
my thing with Dallas. I don't like Dak. I don't like Dak. And
You're not a fan of the Dak attack.
no, I'm not. And I feel like to a degree he holds back that offense.
He's lazy. He's so lazy.
All
And
right. Well,
I've
relax,
seen this the
bro.
last 4 weeks.
That's
Dak
gonna,
Prescott.
that's gonna be, you don't like Dak? He's lazy. He's
Goodness.
lazy.
Here's what aggravates me so much. Dallas's offense is so well structured in the way Kellen Moore runs it. You have a great dynamic duo in a run game. He's able to get the ball out even with some iffy situations at wide receiver, besides CeeDee Lamb. Your tight end is top 5 in the league right now when it comes to receiving and being a receiving tight end. What does he do? He just decides to go with a bunch of random option plays and just throw underneath and cost pick sixes. If you look at half of his interceptions in the last 4 weeks, they've all just been little dink and dump offs to try to get to the Pollard or Zeke, and it just goes return to the house for pick 6, or it gets picked off or fumble. He's just lazy. When it comes to the simple fundamentals, I will never rely on Dak Prescott. Never. That's why I'm taking Tampa Bay so much in this game, because they've proven to me day in and day out that they're able to just play fundamental defense. Their front seven has been exceptional, and the last 3 games have proved to me that their defense is so reliable.
2 things. One, I actually agree with you on that. I think they succeeded really early on when Dak came back with that system. So I think they've just kind of relied on it to a point where they're kind of predictable on offense a little bit. They do have like really good options, and they honestly could flow just as well as the Niners. We're close to it. Obviously, I don't think I'm going to compare Kyle Shanahan to Kellen Moore here, but this was a conversation that I brought up probably like a couple months back when Dallas was like on one of their super highs, that they could honestly function like a San Francisco, but they just choose not to sometimes. And maybe that is Dak's fault, because a lot of people have had the conversation of Mike McCarthy versus Dak, who should be blamed if they go one and done in the playoffs, or just for what they did in Washington. I think it's a little bit of both. I don't think any of us are huge Mike McCarthy fans, but when notions of like Sean Payton have been brought up, of like maybe him coming to Dallas if they go one and done, they actually have really similar track records. Like, records are pretty similar win percentage wise. Each have gone and won 1 Super Bowl. Each have made 4 playoff appearances. So it's eerily close. I think all of us would take Sean Payton, but give Mike McCarthy a little bit of benefit of the doubt. But definitely Dak is causing a little bit of this on himself. But the second point, Brett is really trying to get that audition for Kellen Moore for Broncos head coach. He's really like,
I don't want
I
him.
love you.
I
love
don't
you,
want
Kellen. Like,
I
come on,
love
dude.
Kellen. I don't want him.
You don't want him.
Stay in Dallas. If I'm taking anybody from Dallas, I'm taking Quinn.
Come on, doggy.
You'd
I'm
rather a
taking Dan
DC?
Quinn. I want somebody with head coaching experience.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Hopefully
question
that's
for
the
you
only
guys.
reason why.
Question for you guys. When is the last time the Bucks? I just checked, so I have the answer. When is the last time the Bucks have won a game by more than a score? More than what?
I have a feeling I know the answer, so I'm going to stay quiet. Go have Brett
I want
go
to say
first.
it was 3 or 4 weeks ago.
I think it's week 1 against Dallas.
It's week 2
Oh,
against the
but
Saints.
did they do it week
Wow.
1 against Dallas?
They did it week 1.
Okay, all right.
But they started because I was curious, because we know, originally what made me look at the Bucks scores is just the dog fights they've been in the past few weeks with the Panthers,
Yeah.
with the Cardinals, with the Saints,
With the Steelers.
with the Steelers, with the Browns. And I was looking back, I was like, these are all close games. In the first 2 games, they won the first one by 16, and they beat the Saints by 10. And then after that, all their wins have been one score. They've been bad. They've been bad, but I mean, the Cowboys like track record, you can't really look past that. So I guess I'll lean the Bucks here, but the Cowboys have the power on both sides of the ball to win it. So that's why I'm kind of getting confused in your I think it's a little bit of hatred, Brett.
A little bit.
Okay, well, there we go. We got that answer. I guess I'll go Bucks. I'm not confident. Very much not confident. Am I rooting for the Bucks? No. Am I rooting for either team? No. I'm probably not even going to watch a thing. Let's be honest. No, I will.
You're
But
definitely watching that game.
I'm watching that
That's
game.
the one
We're
that
watching
is
that
circled.
I'm watching that game and I'm rooting for Micah Parsons to get Micah Parsons. Know what this is going to be? I'll tell you exactly what this is going to be. This is going to be Titans Bengals last year, where Jeffrey Simmons had like 4 sacks and they still lost. Micah Parsons is going to have 4 sacks, and
I can see that happening.
And Dak's not going to do garbage, unfortunately. Shout out Dak, though, I guess. But
Same.
shout out
Ryan
Micah, shout out
Tannehill is
Sam
on the
Williams.
level of Dak. Okay. All right.
All right. So that officially wraps up our NFL Super Wildcard Weekend predictions. Just to recap everything we've gone over in the last 45 minutes. Seahawks 49ers, clean sweep on our part for San Francisco's favor. Sportsbook's favor 49ers in this game. When it comes to the Chargers and the Jags, we all swept on Jacksonville. They're playing at home. That game is at 8:15 Saturday night. The first game on Sunday, Dolphins-Bills, we all favored Buffalo in this game, especially considering the circumstances outside of football.
Yeah.
Giants-Vikings, 4:30 Sunday. 1 Viking for Mike, 2 Giants, Ben and I. This is the only game where we've split. The only game. So 2 Giants, 1 Viking. Ravens-Bengals, all Bengals. Monday night, 8:15, Dallas Bucks. We all have Tampa Bay. Mike and Ben are a little skeptical about Tampa still. I'm very confident in Tampa.
Very much. And not to mention, I'm sorry, not to mention, if the Bucks win this game, which is unfortunately a likely scenario, unfortunately, they're gonna have to go to San Francisco or Philadelphia. They're not making it out alive.
Here's the thing.
Oh God.
I think they could beat Philly.
Oh God.
I think they can absolutely beat Philly.
Oh my God.
Bro. Brett, where have you been the last 3 weeks? Go.
This
Oh
Tampa
my
team looks good,
God.
man. I've crapped so much on Todd Bowles. I've crapped so much on Todd Bowles.
So they
this
look
year.
good. They
Let
look.
me explain.
They
Let
look
me
like a sick dog. That team is like
let me-
in one
let me
game, but
explain.
let's see what he says.
Let
that
me
team is a
explain.
19-year-old dog
Mike.
on its last leg.
Mike,
Go.
shut
go.
up. Shut up.
Be a Rufus.
Go. Say your piece, bro.
I have crapped so much on Todd Bowles in the last month and a half, 2 months.
Kinky.
Honestly, the whole year. I've crapped on Todd Bowles a lot. In the last 5 weeks, I've put more faith in Tom Brady in the Bucs than I have Todd Bowles in the Bucs. I honestly think the primary reason why Tampa Bay even comes remote to making a deep playoff run, beating Dallas, beating Philadelphia, going to the title game, is because they have Brady and this offense working in full function. They still have Leftwich. I think this could easily be Tampa. Everybody was saying Carolina's winning the division. I said Carolina's winning the division at one point.
No, well,
Next year,
No one
you
said
did say
that. No
You
one
said that,
the,
right?
the Panthers
I-
were winning division.
but the worst part is up until like week 17 or week 16, any 4 of those teams could have won the division.
Yep, that's exactly it.
I was hoping and praying on Saints, but
The Saints finished in 4th, and they were 1 game back. Also, are we living in 2022? Brett is literally saying the words It came out of my mouth like 4 weeks ago, so I love that. Yeah. So
Anyway,
I have one point before we wrap it up, and I
Yep.
think this is very important to cover. I want to talk about the Green Bay situation and the future of Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love, all that jazz. So,
I have a
the
point too after that, especially.
oh, okay. Um, sorry. So the situation with Green Bay, they winning in if they beat the Lions Sunday Night Football in Lambeau. Packers choke. They got Quay Walker getting ejected for hitting a training staff member. You got Aaron Rodgers starting picks in the fourth quarter at Lambeau. What a surprise. And then there's just situations of Aaron doesn't want to give Jamison Williams his jersey because this one means a little bit more. And him and Randall Cobb walking out side by side next to each other does not seem like a man that just signed a 3-year contract extension the previous offseason. So I just want to hear thoughts on what might happen in Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love. There was I keep going back to guys, if you somewhat like to watch the antics of sports television, I'm no longer a herd guy. I really like First Things First
Thank
on
God.
FS1. Check them out. They're really solid. And one of the guys on there has been bringing up the point that Aaron honestly could have been benched, and you could have saw what Jordan Love was in the
Yeah.
last 4 weeks instead of like trying to go on that playoff run that really didn't mean much. It was kind of a situation where the Green Bay Packers were like the same version of the Patriots, whereas like if they made the playoffs, it kind of meant something like, oh, maybe they have something to work towards the next offseason. But if they didn't, it was all for nothing. But let me hear your situation, your ideas on the Rodgers situation, Jordan Love, et cetera, et cetera. What should the Packers do?
Honestly, oh, you want to go,
Let's
Mike?
hear Brett
Nope.
first.
You go ahead, Brett.
Brett, be assertive.
Honestly, I don't know what they do. I am so confused on this situation, on where they stand, because Aaron Rodgers has just been so dodgy of everything between the Jameson jersey and him and Cobb walking out together. Plus, Alan Lazard publicly came out after the game and said that he is done with Green Bay. He said that that game was his last game. He's not returning, which is kind of a surprise. I thought Green Bay would have at least tried to lock him up, but he's pretty adamant that he wants out. So there's two potential receivers that are
Yeah, he
retired.
wants out because 2 rookies are out playing him.
So you're out Lazard. You're probably out Cobb. Now you're talking maybe out with Rodgers. If I'm Green Bay, if he wants to retire, let him retire. I'm honestly at this point, I'm okay with eating the dead cap of that contract to see what Jordan Love has. Because what I've seen in Jordan Love in the past couple of games looks good. I'm confident in Jordan Love. I think he can play a full season as the Packers starting quarterback. I think that also puts his receivers at a more level playing field. Says if you have Love developing with a developing Christian Watson, with AJ Dillon, with Aaron Jones, with a younger offense, I think that sort of gives your franchise a little bit more longevity and higher hopes to make like a continuous playoff run. If you're just kind of banking on Aaron Rodgers coming back every year, like, and never knowing if he's going to retire or not, I'm not comfortable with that. I honestly consider fielding trade calls too. I think some teams would be interested in trading for Rodgers, especially with that contract, but I don't know. I'm not confident in him coming back at all, to be honest. I don't like it.
I don't think Rodgers retiring. I think he will going into next year, Aaron Rodgers will be a New York Jet. I
I can see
wholeheartedly believe that. And he is the highest paid quarterback. He is making 50 mil. Barr is going to reset that market though when he gets paid. But he's making a lot of money. But the Jets, they're young and they're a good team. They got weapons. Most of them are still on the rookie deals or on small contracts. You can afford to eat that 50 mil for 2 more years. I would do that easy. If I'm the Jets, I don't know. That's just been on my mind every time Aaron Rodgers kind of comes up. I don't know, just him with the Jets is perfect for him. It just scratches the unreachable itch in my brain.
Is it because Brett Favre went there?
No, Brett Favre is a thief.
He is, in fact, a thief. He's not wrong on
They-
many levels.
Okay.
Stole the hope of Jets fans. He stole some other things not related to
Well,
football, but
yeah, lots of things not relating to football.
lots of things.
He took advantage.
Anyway, I think what Mike and I are trying to put is we do not see Aaron Rodgers as a Packer next year.
Yeah. So I think it's a situation of like, if Aaron's the Chon Ching, he is the content king. Um, and I honestly think that he's just kind of playing it up to see what kind of narrative he can get out of the media. He's done that before. He did that last offseason. But also the fact that you guys are bringing this up, like Green Bay has plenty of reason to want to get rid of him. He has really maybe gotten to the last nerve, um, especially with, I don't know, just the lack of enthusiasm, the lack of like true leadership that he's shown this past year. We've already seen that from Aaron, but also after you sign like that final extension with Green Bay, maybe the Packers were thinking that he would provide something like that. Maybe not. Maybe that's just my expectation, but he didn't serve that. I think that just his actions have been all over the place. At the end of the day, he is still one of the best quarterbacks in the league, or has that figure about him of being one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I think that's really tough for Green Bay to let go of, especially if they do truly pick up that fifth-year option for Jordan Love. I think that would pretty much say that Aaron's would be in that last year, 2023 to 2024. If I were the Packers, I would try and get him to stay, but I can definitely see a scenario where he does leave in the offseason. I just wonder why they didn't, and I honestly give credit to this, like why they didn't try out Jordan Love for a couple games instead of trying to just go for a pointless playoff run that didn't end up happening in the end. So,
All right.
Who would they?
That-
Oh, they would have gotten bounced in the first anyways.
yeah,
much.
you're not wrong. With that, it wraps up episode 18 of the 3 and Out podcast. If you like what you saw, like what you heard, be sure to subscribe, follow, give us a like on all of our social media pages and YouTube as well at 3 and Out Pod 1. For Mike Cicchetti and Ben Pope, my name is Brett Shavs. Take care and rob your hair. Rob your hair today.
Ew.
Rye robbing your hair consists of dyeing it red and spiking it up. So shout
We're
out
just
Rye
going
Rob.
for a 2002 look.
That's Rye Rob.
All
It's
right,
a little
let's
messed up.
Yep. On Friday, we have the awards coming up with special guest Rye Rob. That's not happening. But shout out Rye Rob either way. So be on the lookout for that. Awards on Friday.
All right. Take care. Rob your hair.